Welcome back to the Storm Stellar. Brad and Ray are here with you again. It's been a tough February, Ray. This was supposed to be the Olympic break. Yeah, this has been harsh, man.
It
How are
has
you feeling
been.
about it?
As far as the Carolina Hurricanes go, it's nice to see the warts now, I suppose, because you got a chance to address them before the playoffs. And we've got the trade deadline coming up as well, and so having these sort of issues show themselves the way they have in this month, which has been difficult, make no mistake. We at least can do an honest assessment about the team, what the needs are. Are we able to stand pat? Are we going to have to make some moves? What is the situation if we want to go on that cup run that this team is more than capable of doing? So,
100%. It's like the mid-season doldrums, right? Like this was supposed to be
yeah,
the Olympic break. The guys were expected to have a little time off. You get into a little bit, maybe too much routine where, you haven't really been overly challenged a lot. I mean, overall, I think, they've had things pretty steady, but so far this month, 4-3 overtime loss to Toronto, the 4-3 over or the 4-3 regulation loss to Ottawa stings, I think, a lot more than
no question.
the Toronto game. You beat up on the Bruins who are missing Marchand and Bergie and Rask.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's always fun to win those, but like, 6-0 might be a little bit of a stretch, but 3 or 4-1 or something wouldn't have been, that would have been my prediction going in.
sure.
You lose one to Minnesota, who's very good, and
Yeah,
then
sneaky good.
yeah,
Sneaky
I mean
good.
those, and they're fun to watch too.
Oh, yes, they are.
You lose an OT to a Florida team that you should have put away. This was
Yes.
very much late 2000s protect the lead hockey from the Hurricanes, which I don't like. They did not have killer instinct in that game. They just kind of sat back. Then, you beat Nashville, and it was probably, I think the score was pretty indicative of the way the two teams played. But you've let in, two or three empty net, two or three goals where the opposing goaltender has been pulled in the last couple minutes of the game in back-to-back games. And that's a recipe for disaster.
It is. And how about Nashville with the aggressive goalie pull at with 6 minutes left in the third? They're down 4-1. And I was thinking, well, I guess they want to decide whether this is going to be a game or really going to throw in the towel. And I thought, well, 6 minutes left, we should be able to finish it. And all of a sudden it's 4-2. And I'm thinking, okay, well, those
Mm-hmm.
will happen. We still have the game in hand. When they made it 4-3 with 2 minutes remaining, I'm not gonna lie, there was a bit of fear slash panic.
A little worry there
And
for
I
me too.
was I was like I was writing the headline of the story in the morning, hurricanes blow, and then in lower case, a 3-goal lead to the Nashville Predators. Like I was really concerned at that point. Now, thankfully, the boys finished it out properly. They did get it done, so they got the win. But that was some scary moments,
You
and
know,
I guess more proof that the Predators they can hang with anyone. Given the opportunities, they can hang with anyone.
we need to step back and say, okay, what transpired? They pulled the goalie so early. I remember someone on Twitter was like, "Can they do that?" New fan, totally honest, like fair question. It's like, you can pull the goalie and you don't have to have a goal. Like, there's no rule that says you got to have him back there. So,
Opening
totally
face
legit
off.
question,
Yeah,
but I thought that was a really good question from my perspective because it demonstrates that we do have a young fan base. Good thing. So I
no
don't want anybody to
question.
take it the wrong way. Like that's a good thing for the franchise. Young talent, moving forward. Newer fans, new blood into the fan base. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. So yeah, but I looked at both of those and I go, oh my gosh. And then I saw a few people. It was the Florida game and they're like, "Oh, how can we not hit these empty net goals?" And I'm like, "Yeah, these are like 180-foot shots, empty. They're missing the net by a foot." I'm like, did y'all forget we had 2 minutes of 5-on-3 and could not score a goal? I mean, I've said it on this
Yeah.
program many times. If you don't score on a 5-on-3, you don't deserve to win the game.
No, you said it, and it was the proof is in the pudding, as is the old colloquialism states.
Or
It was right there. It was right there. You've got to capitalize on those opportunities. They cannot escape, and that's the hardest part. Okay, so maybe Buffalo is not going to score on every 5-on-3, right? Look at our lineup. A 5-on-3 with the way we can move the puck, with the skill that we have on this squad, you have to get at least one. You
in
have
in
you have to finish.
in my brain, with 2 full minutes of 5-on-3, Montreal Buffalo should probably get one.
Yeah,
Quite frankly, the Hurricanes should have an excellent shot at two.
yeah, that, without doubt,
Not
without
zero.
doubt.
Not zero.
Yeah,
That was it was the old adage again, right? They are overthinking and overpassing and oversharing. It's like, just put it on the net.
and you know what's really funny is we got an example in the Nashville game, how those passes on the power play can be glorious. They can look so good. They make the power play goal just look that much sweeter when they happen, when those extra passes work and you get that goal, right? It's just like, oh my God, that was fantastic. Clinical tic tac toe, beautiful. And it pays off, right?
Yeah.
But when it doesn't, you're suffering. You're
Ouch.
really suffering. Yeah, 100%. That Florida game was so, I mean, uh if we were doing a half full, let's do half full or half empty.
Let's do
Okay?
it.
How do we look at the overtime loss to Florida? Half full, half empty. What's your take?
Half full. Because for 55 minutes, you took it to the Panthers, who's, I think, above us in the standings currently. I think
Yep,
a little bit of that's games at hand, but only a game or so. You can hang with the best teams in the league.
no question.
You have to finish the best teams in the league. That's so I'm going half full though, because if I look at the overall game, that I mean, was a Barkov, that I mean, that shot. I mean, I've seen people like, oh, that was on Anderson, that was on the deep. Nobody's stopping that 75-80% of the time. That was just beautiful. I mean,
It
come on.
was it was a beautiful move, and what people forget a lot of times is backhand shots for goaltenders are very difficult to scope out for where they're going or how they're coming off the stick. It's very, very difficult. And the backhanders do not fly the way a snapshot will. You know what I mean? Or a wrist
Mhm.
shot or whatever. Like they can go wherever. And so, Anderson opened up a little bit and it slid through. Those things happen. It was a glorious move. Barkov, you take your hat off and you say, man, that's why you're again, and you're an all-star. You're amazing. I mean, Barkov is just that, a talent that really needs really needs to be watched closely because he can break open a game all on his own. Never mind guys like Huberto. Holy cow,
Right,
Huberto.
right. So,
Wow.
what about you? How do you feel? Whether the
You
Florida game or the Florida Nashville kind of combo there? Because
I would say I say half full, but only for a completely different reason.
oh,
The
different's good.
reason the reason I say half full is because as a fan of just hockey in general, when you see two teams like that who could meet in the playoffs, I mean, I just spent a lot of time watching that game and imagining getting six more just like it. Because there's no way that a series between Carolina and Florida, if that's the way it turns out, doesn't go 7 games.
And it's going to be the biggest difference I would see is just the physicality is going to ramp up.
Yes.
Everything is going to elevate from that. And
there was not a lot of room to move out there in that Florida game. Everyone was playing it pretty tight, and Carolina took advantage of their opportunities. They made them count, and they played a great game, like you said, for 55 minutes. And then a couple of those long shots for the empty net. Trip Tracy during the game was kind of wondering about those. Was it right to make that effort, or should they have tried to find a way to hold on to the puck for a better opportunity? You know what I mean? Like, the guys can
Mhm.
handle the puck quite well. You could actually see it in the game against Nashville that, after they had given up a couple of those, extra man goals to
Mhm.
Nashville late in the third, they started to actually control the puck a little bit more into their own end and work their way up to, center ice before they made those,
Right. Not just
attempts and
icing it
stuff like
over and
that.
over,
It
actually
wasn't
trying to
just
move, just
icing
get it
it.
out of the zone. Yep.
Exactly. And especially with the loss of Trocheck, I mean, that certainly hurt last night. Again, he's terrific in the faceoff circle. So being down a man in that game and one less, I mean, they played it right. They played it smart. I wish they would have done that in the Florida game, where I think they could have gotten away with it. But look, that game was just fantastic to watch. We were on the wrong side of it, but come on, you had to enjoy that game.
0
I
and
don't
7 in
even
national television appearances, I think now, all time. Never won a nationally televised game.
really.
Yep.
That is crazy.
We used to all complain about not getting national exposure. Now I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. I was gonna, and that's one of the things that I was complaining about. And it's kind of funny. I was very, very quickly concerning the Nashville game. I was so thankful that Sportsnet here in Canada carried that contest for everyone to get a look at. Mostly because Sperry Kokiniemi managed to score again and once again loft himself ahead of the Montreal Canadiens. More goals than wins. So, or at the very least equal. And KK played a fantastic 200-foot game. I loved everything that he did on the ice. He made smart defensive plays in his own end. A great goal with a follow-up shot on the rebound. He puts that shot in through traffic and stays in the slot for the rebound that came out to him. And make no mistake, he fired that one home. He had a great game. He was terrific.
And with
And
Trocheck out, I think we're going to see more second line KK because
which,
KK with it was Natchez and Jarvis, I think, for a little bit.
yeah.
And then in practice, I think today it was Lawrence on the second line. I'm all
Ooh.
about putting particularly KK and Natchez together, but whether it's Lawrence, whether it's Jarvis or another person who can take advantage of KK's hockey sense,
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a shining opportunity for the young man to maybe say, "Hey, I can be moved up in this roster. You can put faith in me." So I'm looking for big things out of him.
Opportunity presents itself, and this is kind of something that sounds a little gruesome to think about as a fan of the team. When there are injuries to great players on your team, you really hate to see it. You hate to see it. But on the other end of that, those injuries provide opportunities to players who need to step up their game or have an opportunity, and that's what we need. So it sounds a little gruesome. It sounds a little it's you know
The
this is
reality
an
of the
opportunity.
business, we've said
It is.
Trocheck is one of the guys who I think is more likely to be moved. So
Oh yeah.
if he's out for these next two games against Pitt and Philly, which are weird start times, that's another one that gives me the heebie-jeebies, right? 1 p.m. and 3 p.m.
Oh,
But
on President's Day, it's
as I
back-to-back
say,
games, is it not?
back-to-back games. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
1 p.m. tomorrow, 3 p.m. on Monday. two Pennsylvania teams. If KK can demonstrate he can fulfill a real, if he can solidify as a second line center, I think that makes Trocheck more expandable, which I don't like. I love him, but I think the Florida game in particular, the Wild game, and even to some degree the Toronto game have exposed. I hope the Hurricanes are looking to upgrade the defense. Money Puck put out statistics all the time for Vegas betting purposes, but it's good information that Cole and Smith together just don't give up goals, which is why it looks like maybe that's why Rod is playing Smith over Bear, because that combination is just locked down. And I'm one of those kind of people who the first thing I want out of my defenseman is defense. Offense is great, but I want you to keep the puck out of our end, good clears. I want you to be in front of the goalie, play defense. Like that's, goal scorers should, forwards should score goals. Defense should play defense. If you get somebody that can do both, fantastic. I love a two-way player, but I don't like giving up offensive talent for suspect D, because, those pinches can hurt you. So I think if Carolina makes a move, I'm, a few weeks ago, I was on the Surge cast, very first episode with our friend Zach, and said, I don't know who you move, was my answer. I said, I really don't. I said that I'm open to any move, but I don't know who it is. And as we, get a little closer to the trade deadline, we're just about a month out now. The more I'm starting to say, I still don't know who, but I'm starting to develop what in terms of what position is it. And, names like Claude Giroux have been thrown around. And the more I look at it, I go, I think we got forwards. We can always call up kids from who have been playing amazing, like Drury. I want to see, Jacob Slavin light. I want to see a number 2 stud, not necessarily paired with Slavin, but anchoring that, second line, and then kind of bumping everybody down half a step so that we have 3 shutdown lines of D. Because, and somebody don't mind throwing the body around. It's, I'm not big on, I'm not for checking over everything else, but, I felt better last year having Hakanpää in the lineup.
I
especially
love
especially
Hakanpää.
when they're taking cheap shots at Trocheck. Aho took a cheap shot. Fetch every game takes a cheap shot from somebody.
Yes, he does. Do you have anyone in mind, or do you want to hold on to that for as we get closer
Let's
to the
hold
trade
on.
deadline? That
I'm not
there's a
sold
lot
on
of names.
anybody.
Yeah, and there's a lot of names out there. And I'll be straight up honest with you. The thought of Claude Giroux in a Hurricanes uniform on the way to a playoff race, I peed a little.
I mean, I would be 100% for it.
Over the moon.
I just don't want that to be the only. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if that's one of a set of moves, I'm all in.
And
if that's the move, it's not the right move.
Yeah, and further, there's a lot of other teams that have a greater need for him that are light and a greater ability to pay for him, because he's an 8.5 salary cap hit.
A lot of money.
So that's a lot of dough.
We said last week, I think it was, it's going to have to be money in, money out.
Yeah.
But this isn't going to be trading prospects and picks for somebody good. Like somebody's leaving the top 20.
Oh, man. Yeah, there's a lot of names out there. We'll get a closer look at them as we get closer. But again, that's I guess when we're talking half full, half empty, that's the half full look at a 2-5 in February situation, right? 2 wins, 5 losses. You're seeing the warts now. The half full, you're seeing them now. You can do something to correct them. So again, I guess I'm in a half full mood, right? For this episode, to say the least. And we've got.
I was just saying, I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're gonna have a bad stretch, a month before the trade deadline, excellent time to have a bad stretch.
No question.
Because it's going to show what are your real weaknesses, and it's not going to hide that Anderson is saving the team some of these nights.
Oh,
and you need a hot goaltender to win a cup. I think Anderson can be that guy here. I don't I don't want to have him have to be that guy. I'd rather
Yeah.
give him the support he needs so that he can just go out there and do his thing without having to be extraordinary. He can just be great.
You know what's really funny? And chirping doesn't just happen on the ice in the NHL. It happens amongst fans. And I had a lot of people chirping me on Facebook, social media, friends of mine that'll give me a call and say, on a night where, Anderson gives up that one bad goal or whatever, and it ends up that the Canes lose, and it's how do you like him now? Like, how you like him now? You know what? I still love him to death. I
Does
still
that
love him
person
to
live with you?
death, guys. No, no shit. It's not my wife. But it is Leaf fans. It is Leaf fans, all of them who are saying, you're getting a taste of what we got. It's like, no,
Not at all.
no, not at all.
It shows he's human. It doesn't show that he's not, in my opinion, a Vesna candidate. He's been as good as
Exactly.
any goalie in the league. What are you guys talking about?
No question. He's more than capable. And, for every one of those, soft side, goals, those partially soft eggs that he has every now and again, he's making 15, 20 bell saves. Saves he's got no humanly business making. None. Zero. It should be in the twine, and he's somehow stealing them. Someone put him in cuffs and take him away at the end of the game because he's committed robbery 4 or 5 times. Like, he does that every single game.
But so this is not scripted. This is off the cuff.
Yeah.
If tomorrow Don Waddell said we can trade Anderson for like Vasilevsky, who do you want in net?
Oh,
And to be
that.
fair, there's no wrong answer
Oh
because
my
they're both
gosh. No, there
stellar.
isn't.
The
Ba-
important part, and honestly, Ray, the fact that you didn't give me an answer right away is great because it really proves the point I wanted to make, which was Vasilevsky has been the best goalie in this league, more or less top three goalie for several years now.
yeah.
Anderson has as many wins. He has one fewer losses. He's ahead in, I think, save percentage. I
Yeah.
don't have the goals against in front of me, but I will. He's ahead in
It
goals against. He's
yeah,
playing
he's
better than the guy who most fans think is generally the best goalie in the league.
Anderson had it was goals against average. I noted last night in my head that his goals against average is now just over 2.04. It was at 193, and I'm like, okay, he's had a couple of games that he wasn't perfect or whatever the way he normally is, but still 2.03 is super respectable. If I had to
I
choose,
mean, 7 losses from the year.
yeah, I know it's on the I say Vasilevsky by a whisker. And the only reason is because, I mean, uh, two-time back-to-back Stanley Cup wins. He
Experience
proved,
matters.
and
Sure.
experience matters. Yeah, in the playoffs where you absolutely need to win. Is he not as great now? Well, yeah, maybe he's struggling a little bit, and I say struggling with tongue
So
firmly
so
in
he's
cheek.
the
Yeah, I mean
second or
he's
third best guy, not the
I
best
mean,
guy, right?
honestly, yeah, gee whiz. But yeah, Vasilevsky by a whisker just because of the experience. But I'm more than happy with Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. See, I
More
would
than
choose
happy.
Anderson only from a teammate. Like we already
Yeah.
know he fits. But if
Oh,
I'm looking at stats and like the ability, flip a coin. In my opinion, they're
100%.
they're
Especially with
both
the D.
top three, top four guys right now.
Especially with the D playing well in front of him. And that's the difference for a lot of the people that were chirping me earlier who were saying, oh, how you like him now? And like, look, Anderson is giving the Hurricanes his all every friggin' night. And the reason why he's doing so well, it's that extra appreciation for the D that he has in front of him who are playing well also. You know what I mean? And those times that he's not under constant pressure, you know what I mean? He's
Yep.
not on, but he's there when we need him, and that's what matters. I love Anderson, and I mean, we've got good things going. I hope they. And again, it's funny. I'm having a flashback to the freak out that we had when Ned was traded, and we didn't know where we were going for a goaltender.
I was
And
one of those for sure. That
we
scared the
were
bejesus out of me.
we but it's worked out beautifully. And Mr. Anderson and Ranta are doing well. We're getting contributions from everyone. I'm loving it. So
Same.
yeah. Now, if we're looking ahead to the end to the rest of the month, now we already talked about Pittsburgh and Philly back-to-back games, but we also have Columbus, who's been a thorn in Hurricane side, and Edmonton to close out the rest of this month. What what are we looking at? Do we have a chance to flip the script and make that above 500 in February, or are we in big trouble here?
I think you hit the nail on the head. We can close out this month, I think, really well. So number one, Pittsburgh is up first. Crosby just netted his 500th. Congrats to him.
Indeed.
They are tied with Carolina for number one in the Metro,
Yeah.
but Hurricanes have 3 games in hand.
Yeah.
So I'm always one of those, like, games in hand should be points. So let's start with 2 points tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Then you get Philly coming in. Philly is way down at 39 points. You should win that one. The thing that scares me about the Philly game, Ray, and maybe this is, me being a little stitious. It's a 3 p.m. start time, and
Hmm.
weird start times just affect teams in weird ways, and I don't like it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
everyone's got a routine like that. That's these are players are creatures of habit, and whether if they have a normal afternoon nap or whatever, I mean, whatever they do that they need to do to get ready in on game time when it's 7 o'clock, and you got a 7 o'clock start time, right? Everyone's got their whole routine that they do to get through the day so that they're fresh as a daisy, ready to go when that puck drops, right? You start changing the times and stuff, and the more experienced players can handle it easier, but it's still difficult.
It is. And of the last 2 games, Edmonton is a better team than Columbus.
No
Columbus scares me
question.
more.
Yeah,
Edmonton is. I think the Hurricanes will handle Edmonton because you, me, and millions of hockey fans know how you beat Edmonton. You shut down McDavid and Draisaitl, and you win the game.
yeah,
Columbus, I think you called them a thorn a minute ago, and that's exactly. This is a team that should be sellers coming up the next few weeks,
yep,
but give the Hurricanes fits, right? Yeah, we trashed them. We came back and trashed them, and then they were like, "Oh, well, we're not going to take that," and they beat us 6-0. So
exactly.
that's the game that worries me. Not so much even a loss. I feel like that's going to be very similar to the Preds game last night, where it's going to
Mm.
be chippy and gritty, and I just don't want anybody getting hurt.
Well, I know I don't want anyone getting hurt, and I'll tell you, you throw the Oiler game in behind that one, that is not going to be. I mean, it was a gritty, tough win when the Hurricanes were up here in my neck of the woods, and they came away with a victory just 2 nights after they defeated the Flames. Um, the Edmonton's got some pep in their step now. Uh, they made that trade for Evander Kane. Whether you agree with him joining the team or not, they have a different look now. Mike Smith is back, and they've got a new coach, and there's that little bit of an injection. They brought up the coach, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, so I apologize in advance. But they brought the coach up from the farm system in the AHL. They brought him in. Now everyone is uh, they're playing a much better game all around, and maybe the players had tuned tip it out, and if the coach loses the locker room, there's not much you're going to be able to get out of them, no matter. how many all-world players you have on your squad. You know, that's just the way it is. It's going to be a struggle. They look much different now.
They do.
Jay
There
Woodcroft
you go.
is they've
I
got
knew it'd
they
come to
you
you.
there we go. I'm telling you, they look different. They look better. Not as good as the Calgary Flames, who are every bit as hot as their team name suggests.
It's like the old
They are
Iginla Flames again. It's fun to watch.
wow, very fun to watch, very scary to watch. I mean, I'm glad they're in the West. They're making big waves and playing fantastic, but I digress.
Some good teams.
This,
There's some very much haves and have-nots this year. The good teams are all really scary, and there's three or four right there
yeah,
that you could go after.
I've got to tell you, we we're going to need all hands on deck for these next 4 games if we want to get that winning record in February. Is it possible? Yes, 100% it is, but it's by no means easy. Pittsburgh, Philly is the one game that I would say 90% you have to win, that you absolutely have to win
Mhm.
that one. 100% you have to win that one. Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Edmonton, for all different reasons, very difficult, very difficult games to play, and should prove to be very entertaining for the fans watching this game. Keep an eye on this team as we get through this session, because boy, oh boy, we're head. I mean, are we? It's like I'm doing a preamble for the home stretch, and we're only just barely over half. There's still tons of hockey season left, but it feels like we're already should be looking, ahead
Yeah, I
where
mean,
we're going to be in the playoffs, right?
right. They've more or less secured that playoff spot. So it is early, but is it? I mean, you've been around long enough. I've been around long enough. Those of you
Yeah.
who are newer may not know. How many years, Ray, did we go to the last game of the season?
Oh,
And it
good
wasn't always
Lord.
in our hands. Sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. But the last day of the season, we go in not knowing if we were making the playoffs or not. You want to talk about
My
stress, folks.
gosh.
If you're a newer Canes fan and didn't live through those days,
Oh,
I'm so happy for you, because those literally, there were 2 or 3 years I can think of at least. Last day of the season, last game of the season for the Hurricanes, a couple of them it was winning in, a couple of them was win, and then if another team
get some
loses, then you
help.
might be in. And those took years off my life. It's
It's
so
the
nice to be
gray.
in February and be like,
You see a little
stay
bit of
healthy.
gray, and you see a little bit of gray in the goatee there, and that came about thanks to, um, the many sleepless nights wondering if the Hurricanes were going to find a way through during those difficult times and just get in,
Yeah. It
because
almost
that.
wasn't fun. It was so stressful.
Well,
I mean, right?
exactly.
I mean, it
Yeah,
was fun, but at the same time, you're like, even if they win, they might not be in, and I don't know how to handle that.
yeah. Like, I mean, in those situations were always like they were always difficult, right? But you wanted to just say, look, just get the win and let the chips fall where they may. If you can't, if you like, you want to be able to control your destiny, right? And they've
Mhm.
played so well, and they like right now, that now we don't really have to worry about such things. We got a pretty good idea that the Hurricanes, even if they stumble a little bit, even if they have a speed wobble, sometimes motorbikes, they'll have a speed wobble when they get going too fast. That's what I want to call this. We can have a little speed wobble now, but you know, Coach Brindamore, the team, the leaders, guys like Jordan Stahl, uh, can get everyone into line and going in the right direction. Man, I was great. Happy to see TSA line playing together last night. What, like, wasn't that great? I mean, honestly,
It really was. And so two things as we wrap up. Kind of a short episode tonight, but
sure.
one is starting March 3rd, the Hurricanes play every Thursday for the rest of the season.
Thursday night hockey every Thursday.
So
Really?
so Hurricane, yep. Uh, so every Thursday, the Capitals, the Avalanche, the Leafs, the Stars, the Habs, the Sabres, the Red Wings, the Jets, and the last day of the season is the Devils. Every Thursday night, starting in March, Hurricanes fans, block your calendar.
Wow.
Every Thursday night is Thursday night hockey.
There you
That's one.
go.
And the last thing I want to bring up is I assume you and every other hockey fan has seen what caused Brad Marchand to be from the league for the punch and then the stick on Yari.
Yeah, the spear to the face mask.
Yes. Have you seen the commissioner's report, Ray? Because not everybody has seen the commissioner's report, which is hilarious.
I did not. I have not read the commissioner's report. I do know the result, though. And
Suspension upheld.
Yes.
And when asked why he did it, Marchand's response was, he looked at me and said, and I'm going to paraphrase because it's a family-friendly show.
Sure.
Basically, what Jari said was, how'd you like that flip and save? That is all it took to set Brad Marchand off.
Well,
the same player who said that when I'm sorry, from New York, Panarin.
Yes.
If you remember, he said, "Oh, I just asked him how things were back home in Russia, and if he overreacts, then how soft is this league?" The same guy who said that got mad and speared and punched the goaltender for asking him, "How was that flip and save?" I love we even complimented Brad last week. Like I even and was trying to give him some credit, and I still give him credit for his off ice things, but on ice, Brad, you're a mess, flat out. That's what set him off.
Yeah, once a rat, always a rat.
And
I mean, that's just the way it is with him and his talent. Like, and there's so much frustration because you see how much talent he has. You see, and I mean, being a pest is one thing, but he goes too far. And I don't blame the goaltender for saying what he did. He was trying to give a fan earlier in the game a puck, and Marchand goes by and knocks the puck off his stick. I mean, and then manages to take the puck and throw it away from him. The whole thing. They were going at it back and forth. Brad, first of all, it stunned me. It stuns me that was the excuse in the meeting. That was his justification for trying to jab his stick into the face of the goaltender.
That was it.
How little it was. He got the last laugh. The goaltender got the last laugh. You know what? I love crowing. Okay. And I chirp and I chirp and I chirp. But there is a rule. You have to be able to take as well as you give.
And I'm on Jari's side on this. Knowing Marchand's history and knowing how upset he was the whole game, I would have provoked him too, because you got what you wanted. Marchand out of the game. That's what you wanted. Done.
And I would chirp him relentlessly. throughout the game. And like, that's just the way it is. You have to be able, and all, like, Marchand could have said, he could have just said, yeah, he made a good save. We'll see you again. We'll see you again next game or whatever. But you didn't need to punch him in the head. You didn't need to try to spear his face off. And it was so funny how they tried to minimize that. I put my stick in his face. No, that's not what you did. When you jab your stick into the mask in a forward direction that turns his head, I'm sorry, you tried to spear him in the face.
If the linesman wasn't holding him back, that would have been a full-on fight. And Marshy knows it.
Oh, it would have been. Knuckles would have been chucked. They'll be chucking Knuckles.
I thought you and the listeners would appreciate that. If you didn't know what set off Brad Marchand, how'd you like that flipping goal? That was it.
That flipping goal. That is freaking awesome. Good for him. Good for the league. Let me just say, I was a little astonished that Bettman upheld the 6 games.
Same.
Because when they first made the announcement and said it was only 6 games, I said, not enough, because what they should have done to get it right was give him 10, because he's going to appeal, and then you can chop it down to 6, which is appropriate. You know
Right.
what I mean? They
Hmm.
always appeal, and in most cases, I can't remember the last appeal of a suspension that wasn't reduced in some way, shape, or form, even if it's like one game or like 10% of a game. I
Hmm.
don't even recall that there hasn't been a time where the league has stood pat and said, no, you know what, Brad, you're going to take a seat and hopefully learn your lesson. I mean, that's I can't even believe I just said that, because it's never going to happen with him. But is what it is. Um, yeah, what
Good
a
stuff.
it was. There's really, and I'm trying to think. There really isn't much more to say, is there?
Go Canes.
Cocaines.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.